Joe here for CLBDI Talks. Welcome to another episode. Today, we're going to be sitting down with Michelle Martin. Michelle has been working to support people living with dementia and their care partners for over 25 years and is proudly the executive director for the Alzheimer Society Waterloo-Wellington. Michelle has been at the Alzheimer Society for 8.5 years and is looking forward to the future of the organization and everything that they've got planned in our community. We're definitely going to talk about those plans. We're also going to talk about the Alzheimer's Society in general, and we're going to talk about the two landmark studies released by the Alzheimer's Society and what they mean for the future of dementia and dementia care in Canada. First things first, thank you very much, Michelle, for joining us here today. We really appreciate it. Why don't you introduce yourself to our listeners and tell us a little bit about you?
Oh, thank you so much for the opportunity, Joe. So, my name's Michelle Martin. I'm very proud to be the executive director of the Alzheimer Society Waterloo-Wellington. I have been with the organization for about 8.5 years and plan to be there for much longer if things go my way. And we really, as an agency, are here to support people living with Alzheimer's disease and dementia with support. So, whether that's support to their care partners, whether that's support to themselves directly, we provide education, we provide therapeutic recreational opportunities, all of those wonderful things. So, it's an absolute joy to be leading an agency that provides these valuable services to the community.
Well, we are so excited to have somebody from the Alzheimer's Society of Canada here. It's an honor. And for those who don't know, the Alzheimer's Society of Canada is a quite large scale operation compared to what we do at CLBDI. So many people who are listening may have already heard of it. You told us a little bit about what you're doing locally, and the work that you're doing is amazing. I urge anybody who's listening who's a Lewy Warrior who's looking for resources or education or support to check out your website, to find you on Facebook. But for those who don't know, could you tell listeners a little bit about the Alzheimer's Society's mission and what it offers both across our country and local communities with a little bit more depth?
Sure, and that's a great question, Joe. Thank you so much for asking. So, first of all, to start, across Canada, we all, as Alzheimer's societies, we all share the same vision, mission, and values, which is to alleviate the personal and social consequences of Alzheimer's disease and other dementias and to promote research. So, very, very important. So, the Alzheimer's Society of Canada is actually an independent structure. And what it does is it's not a governance structure, it doesn't oversee the Alzheimer's Society's actual work that's happening on the ground, but rather it's a beacon. It's a beacon of information. So, they are in charge of having the most up to date, the most practical and the most innovative research, which includes not only learning more about dementia, hopefully looking at a cure one day. That's what we're all striving for, but really rolling out that best practice all across the country. So, what happens is, as part of a provincial organization, we take the recommendations and the guidance from Alzheimer's Society of Canada. And that is the information that we use in terms of providing direct programming and services all across the country. So, the Alzheimer's Society of Canada doesn't actually provide direct service. However, they're the backbone of the services that are provided at the frontline level because they're really, really informing our knowledge, our best practice, and our leading innovations in terms of strategies, how to support people living with dementia to have a better quality of life, et cetera, et cetera. So, how this works is there are 12 provincial organizations for the provinces and the territories, and they act as a best practice center for all of us local societies. So, kind of think of it as a tier down. So, you have the Alzheimer Society of Canada, essentially sitting at the top, who is our master of knowledge. They disseminate that down to the provincial organizations, so the Alzheimer Society of Ontario. And at that level, they help to design programming. They help to support back office functions, things just getting the day to day administration done. So that really what that does is it empowers local societies, so people that are on the ground, to deliver the most up to date, best practice, evidence based programming that's available in our system right now. And what that ensures is that people, no matter where they live in Canada, can access similar supports. They may not be exactly the same from society to society, just because of the different community needs. But essentially, if someone was living in Victoria and then they moved to Kitchener Waterloo, they can still expect to receive that same level of support and service and the same message, consistent messaging from their local Alzheimer's societies. So I don't know, did that help answer your question?
It very much did, and I find it, I think that it's a really, really smart way to kind of, unify on messaging, but also on the information that's coming down to each of the individual kind of local, regional societies. And I think that that's some great insight for people who maybe don't understand how the whole thing works. Now, your role is executive director of the Alzheimer Society of Waterloo-Wellington. Could you expand on what that entails, and maybe tell our listeners what your favorite thing about being a part of the Alzheimer Society is and what you're hoping for in the coming years? And, are there any new and exciting initiatives or goals on the horizon for the Alzheimer Society?
Oh, this is a very happy question for me to answer because we are experiencing a wonderful time of growth. So I'd love to share that with you. So I'm the executive director of the Alzheimer's Society Waterloo-Wellington. And essentially, my role is to provide a foundation and a structure. So, my frontline team, which includes social workers, which includes therapeutic recreationalists, which includes some nurses and some other non registered healthcare professionals, to ensure that we are providing them with the tools, the knowledge, and the skills so that they can support people living with dementia and their care partners to live their best day. That is our goal, to support people living with dementia to live their best day. So, whether that is through social work support, so living with dementia, whether that's you yourself or whether that's you as a care partner or a family member or a neighbor or whoever that is, can be really hard. And sometimes it's a great thing to talk about it and to meet with a social worker who's specially trained in how to support folks living with dementia on strategies to make the journey with dementia better. So we have a wonderful support group model that's led by registered social workers. The groups meet monthly. We have different groups based on people's different needs and different geographies, but also that one on one support. So sometimes folks just need to get it out. They need to get things off their chest, and they need someone who's not biased and maybe someone who isn't part of their inner circle to help support them and guide them and arm them with strategies that will make challenges a little bit easier in their day to day life. We also really believe that people living with dementia deserve to have fun just like everyone else. And not only is it good for your good for your emotions, it's also really good for your brain health. It's one of the best things that we can do to either reduce our risk of developing dementia in the first place or to slow down the progression of the disease is to remain socially active. So we provide wonderful programs, whether they're art programs or music programs or exercise programs. And it's also wonderful because then people living with dementia can meet other folks that are just like them, that are going through a journey just like them. And that peer support, you cannot put a price on. It's just invaluable. We feel strongly, and I know, Joe, you and I feel the same about this, that education is power, knowledge is power. And we offer a significant amount of education, whether it's on living with dementia and how to arm yourself with practical tips and strategies to manage your own health better, or whether it's learning communication techniques, whether it's learning strategies, how to visit someone in long term care. You name it, whatever it is, really, really important. The more you know, the better equipped you are, the more ability you're going to be able to cope and live well with the disease. So, what's my favorite part of this job is that I essentially create, or well, not just me, my team, but my team and I essentially create a framework for my frontline team to be successful. And they support thousands of individuals living with dementia every single day. That's what makes me happy. That's what gives me joy. Hearing those satisfaction stories from clients, hearing their comments, just watching their body language that they had now feel a sense of relief that they're connected to something, they have a purpose. And people living with dementia do have a purpose. They have a very strong purpose. And I think as agencies that support this population, we need to support that. We need to encourage that. We need to do whatever we can to make sure that that person is feeling valued, respect, and meaningful in their lives. So, yes,
Absolutely.
that's what makes me happy.
Absolutely. Well, and you know what? I wanted to take a moment here to say, if you are listening and you are somebody from the Waterloo region and you are looking for education or support, I highly recommend going to check out the Alzheimer Society Waterloo-Wellington website. They have a program guide that shows all sorts of different opportunities for support, programs that they have running. And it's just fantastic what you guys are doing. I mean, we've been watching from the sidelines for a while, and just we think that you guys are ace, and the stuff that you're offering to Lewy Warriors or other dementia patients or people with Alzheimer's. It's awesome. It's just awesome stuff. So if you haven't, you're listening, and you haven't been to their website and checked out all the different things that they're offering, I highly recommend that you go and take a look, because there are ample opportunities to build support, or whether that's through, as you said, education, or whether it's physical activity and social activity. I like so much that you said living with purpose, because that is something that has come up time and time again. Finding, or not finding, but giving um, the not only caretakers but the dementia patients themselves a sense of purpose back, a sense of autonomy, of fun,
Absolutely.
of social interaction, of,
Hmm.
they say physical and social interaction, it helps, as you said, helps the brain, and so having a entity that is offering these programs to people in our region who really benefit from them is just awesome. That's all I wanted
Oh,
to
well,
add there.
thank you,
You're
Joe.
very
And
welcome.
we look forward to serving folks. So, yes, please do reach out. We'd love to support you.
So, for my last question today, I wanted to talk about the two landmark studies produced by the Alzheimer Society of Canada, which outline a serious challenge for all Canadians in the near future regarding dementia. Both of these are quite extensive and, in our opinion, very important studies. We urge anybody who's listening to check them out. They also kind of galvanized us to writing our dementia advocacy letter template earlier this year, which was created with the goal of helping people start the conversation with their local and provincial politicians about the future of dementia in Canada. Can you speak to those studies and share your thoughts on this future that's coming? And Are there ways that people can volunteer or support advocacy through the Alzheimer Society?
Absolutely. Thank you, Joe. That's a great question. So, the landmark study is essentially, we use it for a couple of reasons. We use it first to showcase the prevalence of dementia, and it's increasing at an alarming rate. So, by 2030, that is not that far away. Our researchers project that there'll be over 1 million people living with dementia in Canada, and if we don't find a cure by 2050, that number is going to skyrocket to 1.7 million. So we really use this document as a tool not only to inform us and to give us the latest information about dementia, but to also educate our government on what type of supports are required, and trying to get in front of the, I hate saying the word tsunami, but the tsunami of folks that are going to be coming our way with new diagnoses living with dementia. So it's been a really valuable tool to engage either members of provincial parliament, MPPs, or even folks at Ontario Health or at the Ministry of Health level. And they're paying attention. They're really using the information to help support some new strategies that are happening in terms of providing the health care in terms of the dementia lens. The second edition of the landmark study focuses on the same things, on prevalence, but it also looks at health equity in Canada. So what does dementia mean for our equity seeking groups? And an equity seeking group could be Indigenous people, it could be new immigrants, it could be people that English is their second language, it could be a multitude of things. And unfortunately, people that are from our equity deserving populations, because of social determinants of health, we know that these populations, unfortunately, not always, but more often, are lower income, may not have secondary education, and may not have access to healthy food or primary health care. And that only compounds their risk of developing dementia. And it also compounds the rate at which that dementia will progress. So it's really important for the individual Alzheimer's societies who are providing that frontline care in their communities to learn about this and to reach out to our equity seeking groups and see, how can we partner with you? How can we best support you? Because our traditional model of service delivery that, fits the Anglo-Saxon Canadian may not fit with everybody in our population. We're learning more about that. We know we have to be culturally safe and sensitive, but we also need to respect the knowledge of the Alzheimer's Society, and they're using talking with each other, relying on each other to almost co-design how we deliver that support with different equity seeking groups. So this is an area of growth for the Alzheimer's Society. To be honest with you, in the past, we haven't been very good at servicing people from various ethnic communities, and we need to do better. It's the political landscape, and not only that, it's just the right thing to do. But definitely, so these two documents really help to guide and inform decision making and programming at a local level. And I loved it, Joe, when you were talking about advocacy. I loved it when you were talking about helping people to get involved, maybe to help advocate on behalf of people living with dementia with their members of provincial parliament. That is probably the most effective thing you can do as a consumer, because what happens is then you are mentioning dementia at those levels. The Alzheimer Society locally is contacting MPPs about dementia at those levels. Provincially, we're talking with the provincial government at those levels. And then federally, we're talking about dementia at those levels. So it really helps build. So the more voices we have, the more attention we are going to get on dementia, which equals resources coming into the community. So very, very important. Now, how to get involved? That is really, really wonderful. That is such a timely question. The Alzheimer's Society of Ontario has actually just launched what they call an advocacy college. And essentially, what it is it's not an intensive, not an onerous, but a very dedicated training resource to teach folks how to advocate for themselves, or to how to advocate on behalf of a loved one. And as I say, it is brand new, so I unfortunately haven't gone through the college. I don't exactly know what it's going to look like, but I do know that the whole goal of this is to kind of enable our communities and to enable our frontline workers to really have a common strategy of advocating, which will be ultimately more effective and which will lead to more supports for people living with dementia in the community. So all folks would have to do would be to start by volunteering or applying to become a volunteer with the Alzheimer Society Waterloo-Wellington or any of your local Alzheimer's societies, and then we could help enroll you in that advocacy college and then put you to work. So yes, we would love that
Well,
if
that's
people
amazing.
wanted to get involved.
I didn't even know about that, and that sounds
Just
amazing.
happened.
Oh, well, just happened. Well, then
Hot off
it's
the press.
fortuitous timing of our conversation today. I wanted to say I love, um, one of the things that you kind of brought up, and I wanted to reiterate for people who are listening. Uh, you know, Grassroots campaigning works, contacting and advocating, contacting kind of MPs, MPPs, and advocating for your loved ones or yourself is sometimes as easy as just letting them know what's going on,
Mhm.
because it joins a chorus of voices asking for change and asking for action. Um, but the thing that most people don't realize when you say something like, by 2030 we're looking at 1 million people. 1 million is a lot of people, but you
Oh.
you got to think about also the families, the stress it's going to put on the healthcare system, the wider implications of 1 million people needing to live in a dementia-friendly society.
Mhm.
There is such a profound impact. Me myself as a caretaker, for somebody without a neurodegenerative disease, but for I've been a caretaker for someone with some mobility issues and some chronic illness. It's stressful. It takes up time and money, and you do it out of love, and you want to be there, but it's challenging, and you need supports, you need help. I can't imagine how much more challenging it would be for someone with, say, Lewy body dementia, which is
Mhm.
so at times seemingly unpredictable and
Mhm.
overwhelming.
Mhm.
And so I urge everybody who's listening to if you want to generate that change, to check out our advocacy, dementia advocacy letter template, or get in touch with advocacy groups, or send a letter of your own to your MP or MPP. And if you want to better learn how to advocate, maybe volunteer for the Alzheimer Society and attend this advocacy college, which sounds amazing. I think we're about done for the day. I wanted to thank you again so much for coming on and chatting with me. It was absolutely wonderful and super interesting. And is there anything you'd like to say to the listeners before we sign off?
Aw, thank you, Joe. And I really enjoyed talking with you as well. I think supporting people living with dementia to live their best day takes a community. It's not just about the care partner or primary care partner. It's not just about the person living with dementia. It's about our whole community. So the more you can learn, the more you can be empathetic and support people living in your community that are living with dementia. And we here at the Alzheimer's Society are here for that reason. Anybody can access education support if you want to learn more. You don't need a diagnosis. We just really need to spread the word that dementia is here, is prevalent, and we need to support our community. So thank you so much for having me, Joe.
Oh, well, you're very welcome, and I couldn't have said it better myself. Once again, this was Michelle Martin for the Alzheimer Society Waterloo-Wellington, and this has been CLBDI Talks. All right, take care.